Hello, and welcome to this morning's webinar. My name is Claire McGee, co-founder of Innovate NI, and your host for today's Transform Your Business in 2022 webinar. For all you social butterflies in the audience, you're encouraged to follow us at Innovator NI and use the hashtag Transform Your Business. We're delighted that in a short while we'll have an energetic and knowledgeable power hour with the inspiring Susan Hayes-Culleton, followed by a Q&A session at 11:15. I'd encourage you all to use the opportunity of having Susan here and submit your questions for her, or indeed any questions about the Transform Your Business programme via the chat or the Q&A facility available as we move through the webinar, and we'll try and answer as many questions as possible at the end. This webinar is recorded and will be available on the Council website in the next few days to watch again, and we'll also share the slide decks with you afterwards. But before we bring Susan to your screens, I'm going to give you a brief overview of ABC Council's flagship business support programme, Transform Your Business, managed and delivered by Innovate NI. ABC has been one of the leading councils in Northern Ireland, providing business mentoring support to small businesses over the last decade. Over 1,200 small businesses have benefited from professional mentoring support over that time. Transform is focused in its delivery, and there are 6 streams of support available. The tailored suite of support shown on screen offers free mentoring to businesses across all sectors, ranging from innovation, early export, digital transformation and growth, to specific support for young entrepreneurs and social enterprises. This suite of support enables you as a local business to access essential business knowledge, expertise and impartial advice through the provision of one-to-one mentoring, signposting support, workshops and networking opportunities to help you work on your business. So to be eligible for the support, businesses just need to be based in the Armagh, Banbridge and Craigavon borough, employ less than 50 employees and should not be an Invest NI client company. This programme is part funded by Invest Northern Ireland and the European Regional Development Fund under the Investment for Growth and Jobs Northern Ireland programme. So secure your place on the programme today by completing the expression of interest. It'll only take 5 minutes to submit, and you can see all the details are on screen now, and we'll include them in the chat facility shortly. So now it's time for me to introduce my good friend, Susan Hayes-Culleton, known as the Positive Economist. Susan is a highly qualified and respected chartered financial analyst, 4 times published author, broadcaster, public speaker, MC, investor, founder and CEO. And for those of you who don't know Susan, she has an amazing capacity to uplift, inform and inspire. And what better way to ditch the January blues and kick off the year in February than with Susan's Power Hour to turbocharge you and your business in 2022. So take a deep breath and buckle yourselves in for the next hour, as Susan provides a whistle-stop tour on the range of small things you can do to make a big difference to your business, and quickly, spanning the gambit of strategy, sales and finance. Susan, your Power Hour starts now.
In 2014 was when I was in your beautiful building. So of course today I am joining you virtually, but hopefully that also has a good purpose too, because we're able to reach many more people as we go. So as Claire said, my name is Susan, and I'm going to tell you a lot about me as I go along, because one of the values that we have is that we really believe in practicing what we preach. So when I'm preaching, when I'm telling you about the various different areas that I feel could be helpful to you today, what I'll do is I'll tell you little bits of my story as we go along then, so that hopefully then we can make the most of the session. Now, of course, today actually means I am the least important person in the room. You are far more important than me, and that is why I want to start off first and foremost by asking you a couple of questions. And I'm asking you these questions. Everything I do generally has 2 reasons for it. So I'm going to copy a link here. I'm going to put it into the chat, and I am going to ask you, please, that is going to make sure now that this goes to everybody. Okay. And can I ask you, please, to head on over there to that link. And the first question that I'm asking you is why, or what is your greatest challenge in business today? Because of course today's title is transforming your business, but it's important that we actually know what you want to transform. So what is your greatest challenge in business today? And whatever it is, we've probably heard it before. So whatever it is. So let's just see what you say. So if you click on the link there that's in the chat, or okay, time. Yeah. Okay. If you can't, right, seems to be everyone can, but just in case anyone's having any issues or you want to do this from another device, you can just go to menti.com and pop that code there in. Okay, imposter syndrome. Yeah. By the way, I've probably been through them all, and generating more sales, that's been a problem in the past. I suppose to a degree, it's always going to be a challenge. Rising costs, yes. I mean, it's the name of the 22 game. For sure. Keeping up with social media, yeah, and not just keeping content going, I'm sure, but keeping up on with the various different platforms. Money, okay. Time finding new customers, regulatory compliance, okay, yeah. That of course is probably more likely to be in certain areas rather than others. Okay, let's see what else you have going on there. Not believing your own hype, okay. And let me see here now. Stream, that could be actually linked to another word. So okay, revenue, okay. And just for anyone who's unfamiliar, revenue is the same as sales. And then also I see people have sent some messages here into the chat as well, which is funding cuts, okay, and also generating sales and having enough time to do the work. Yes, I remember being at a session. Oh, I'd say it must be 15 years ago. And I remember he said, my job is to find buyers. Delivering on the work is actually what costs me money. And it's a good point. It's a good point indeed. Okay, now that is the first question that I want to ask, and I'll be coming back again and again to what you're saying here. But can I also ask you another one? And that is, what do you hope to get from today? Because I know what I wanted to get from today, and I also know what I want to give today, but what do you hope to get from today? So what do you hope to get from today? Aha, tools, plans for the future. Okay, tips for saving time. Okay, inspiration. I hope so. Motivation. Okay, workable plan. Yeah, tips, direction. Okay. Increase efficiency. Okay. As I'm going through, as I'm reading yours, I'm thinking through my head what I have planned and also how I might need to pivot along the way. Tools to juggle admin, definitely. Yeah. How to juggle priorities. Yes. Yeah. In fact, how to establish what your the rank of your priorities as well. Okay. Anything else? Okay, that seems to be where we're standing. Okay, right. So let us establish then how we can make all of that happen. Okay, so what I'm going to do there now is I have one other tool running in the background that I'm just going to make sure is working properly for you. And then we are good to go to make all of this happen. Okay, and you will see exactly what I've done and why. Okay, great stuff. That is there now, and I'll be showing you that in a moment and why I did it. Okay, wonderful. Right, so tools, workable plan, etc., and business planning ahead of 20 business tips for the year ahead is what somebody else says. Morale, lifting experience. You need your mojo. Okay, right. So what I'm going to ask you one more question on Mentimeter, but at the end. So we'll wait until we get back there. I'm going to wait until we get, as I say, to that stage at the end before we collect in one other response. But for now, you can settle back there. Now, I just want to point out about the whole idea of taking notes from here, because a lot of people can be very focused on taking notes as I go. And I want to point out to you that what I've done is within the slides, they're not just slides, they're actually an interactive workbook. Because in this case, each time that I have put something in, I've also made it clickable to either another blog, to a blog post somewhere, or alternatively to a link to a tech tool or something, so that each time that you go back over this set of slides, which I'll happily share with Claire for distribution, then you can click on something that will bring you off into a different direction. And as a result, then you can literally double click into any particular area that you want to go. So what I'm going to run today is I'm going to run in discussion with Claire. We had a chat about this before, is I'm going to talk you through the 7S model that McKinsey runs. Now, McKinsey, for any of you that are not familiar with it, it's a large consultancy company. It's now global, and they work typically with really big companies. And I thought to myself, well, if it's good enough for big companies, well, then how could we apply those principles for a big model or a big company? How could we apply this to small businesses like mine and yours? So here we have the 7 S's. The 7 S's are strategy, structure, systems, styles, staff, skills, and shared values. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you right around this model here, and I'm going to talk to you about how you could apply each of these in your own way. I'm going to start off with strategy, and I'm going to go clockwise around the model, and then I'm going to finish up here with shared values. Now, Claire and I are super happy to take your questions at the end, so please do feel free to submit them, and you don't need to wait until the end to submit them. Submit them as you have them, and Claire will ask them all to me at the end. I will run full through in this power hour, but then at the end, as I say, I'll take the questions right then. So first of all, let's start off here with strategy. Now, I have, delighted to tell you, I have a master's in executive leadership from Ulster University. And one of the modules that we had, the first one was strategy. And if I could boil that module right down, strategy is knowing what you want to do, and more importantly, knowing what you don't. It is actually clarity on who you are and how you're different within the marketplace. That sounds so simple, but if only we knew how to actually define how we are different. Now, I'm going to take you through how one of our businesses is different, and I'm going to tell you why it happened and how it happened and everything. Like I say, I'm going to tell you little bits of my story. But as I'm telling you this, I do want to tell you that I didn't make any of these discoveries myself. The best way to find out how you are different is to hear how other people describe you. And that is why when Claire was describing me there, I was paying a lot of attention. I always do whenever I'm being introduced. When I'm being introduced on an email, as Claire and I have often introduced each other, whether it's by email or whether it's in person, in person at events, if you know what I mean. I always listen to how other people describe me, or how other people describe the businesses that we have, or how other people describe the various different things that we do. That's what I'm always very keen to hear how they see what we do, because they will tell you how you're different. So like I say, I'm going to walk you through how one of our businesses, how we discovered this. But before I do, let's think about you here for a moment. You could be different in a variety of ways. You could be different because you're award winning. Maybe, and now an award can be like an Invest NI, you can have some sort of an award from there. Or back in November, I was MC for Intertrade Ireland's Seed Corn Awards, for example, and the winners there on the night, they were all award winning. So you can have a formal award, but there's other awards too. Like there's other awards like we are 20 years in business, or we have a book of international clients. Like there's also other accolades that you can have that don't necessarily need to have a third party. And then the other awards that you might have as well is if you've received grant funding from anybody, then they have obviously seen that your business meets the criteria for such and such. So for example, in our case, we have an innovation partnership. We're on our second one from Enterprise Ireland. And the fact that we are a company that is very much engaged in innovation, the fact that our innovation met the Enterprise Ireland criteria, and the fact that we are working for our second time with a university like DCU, to me, is an award in its own right. And only in the context of if somebody was asking us, are we innovative? They would be the 3 reasons that I could say, yes, we are. Okay, so think through the accolades of your business, and they're all, again, coming from the outside. They come from the outside. They come from, like I say, Intertrade Ireland or Invest in I, or it could come from a funding body. And of course, if you've received VC funding, venture capital, private equity funding, again, the same. Now, I'll go through the others a little bit quicker, but again, you apply these to you as you go along. Are you an area specialist? So are you, let's say, if you're focusing on strategy, are you somebody that is strategy in the digital marketing space? If you're somebody, for example, that is focused in retail, are you particularly a specialist in e-commerce? If you are, I'm just trying to go around other areas there in my head. Of course, a natural one is, if you are a restaurant or a cafe, are you specialist, for example, in Indian food or local food? Or if you're a cafe, do you also support local suppliers? So what area do you specialize in? Experience is one I've sort of mentioned already, is that if you've stood the test of time, you should be telling people. Our business is in its 12th year. The Hayes Cullerton Group is now in its 12th year. At this stage, we have been through 2 recessions, 1 pandemic. We have built the business to be export focused from our first 6 months. I could tell you all about our experience, but the point is that it's not about mine, of course, here today. It's about yours. What is your experience? And maybe if you're a very young company, maybe the company or the business doesn't have a lot of experience, but you do. So you might be a 1-year-old startup, but actually, let's say, and you have 2 co-founders, let's just say between you, you could have 25 years experience in customer service. So experience is also a very important one. Now, CSR. CSR is corporate for social responsibility. We also could use the term sustainability. I would now even encourage you to go a little bit further and to say, do you in any way, shape or form, do you in any way do something to advance the SDGs? The SDGs are the Sustainable Development Goals. And the SDGs are ways in which we need the world to become a better place. And the SDGs are specific goals that we are working towards in the whole world in order to arrive there. Now, one of the ones that I love most, right, and we're quite involved in a number of them, but one of them that I love most is SDG 17, and it is partnerships. It's how you can bring different parties together in order to achieve an outcome. So last September, I published a book called Money Matters, and it has now gone into every school in the South for transition year. And that's the outcome, right? But let me tell you about the process of getting there. One day, I received a tweet from CFA Society Ireland. Now, CFA Society Ireland is the Chartered Financial Analyst Society. So that's my own professional background. I'm a CFA chart holder. Anyway, within CFA, they saw that we were within one of the pieces of work that we were doing. We were working with teenagers around money. And they said to us, can we come in and talk to your teenagers? And I said to them, well, you could, but actually there's a lot more than that we could do. Why don't we actually work together to produce a book so that then it goes into every school in the country? And then they said, but how would we get there? And because I have published the economics textbook for Leaving Cert, the equivalent of the A-levels in the South twice, I have a very good relationship with our publisher, and that was our distribution channel. So ultimately, here's the 3 things we brought together in this partnership. We brought together money and backing and the people that were featured in the book, etc., through CFA Society Ireland. Me, on the other hand, what I was able to bring was writing expertise, the actual writing itself, the experience of writing a textbook, and the understanding of working with teachers. And then what the publisher brought was distribution. And between the 3 of us, 3 parties, so 2 organizations, one for profit, 1 not for profit, and then us, we made it happen. And that was an example of SDG. So do you do anything in the realm of sustainability? And check those out. Check out those SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, because any type of sustainability funding that you might apply for, in fact, any funding in general you might apply for, there can now be questions around how do you advance the SDGs, for example. And then also, if you are doing this, more and more companies are now, as they're deciding on their supply chain, they're deciding, okay, we want to do business with people who have actually got sustainability at their core. Now, demonstrable communication. There's some businesses out there that are extremely good at getting back to you. And Claire and I have a mutual friend. She's based in America. Her name is Mary Ann Pierce, and she runs a company called Map Digital. And I have a call with her later on today, actually, and she's a fiercely passionate advocate of Northern Ireland as well. And Mary-Ann Pearce has this phrase, if I have to chase, then I will replace. And she means it, I can tell you. And Mary-Ann is the type of woman who, despite the size of her business and how busy she is and the number of time zones that she simultaneously distributes herself across with her team, she has incredible ability to follow up and quickly. I also work with another woman called Claire in Ulster University. Again, no matter, she must zero inbox every single day. There are some people that really stand out to me. They're individuals. Then when I think of other organizations, I'm going to talk to you about them later on. Other organizations have got very efficient follow-up processes when it comes to their communication. They have intercom running on their site. They have bots that are suggesting ways in which you can develop, or ways in which you can problem solve your own issues if they're offline. They have, if you press if you type in the word agent, they will direct you to a real life person. Then their manner on the other side can be very good. So actually one of those that I have is, during the week I had not a problem, but I had a question that I wanted to run through Zoom, and I went through their process and it was very, very good. The actual customer support, because we pay for Zoom, so the customer support element of it, I have to say, was very, very good. So if you're very good at customer service, you will stand out, but particularly if you tell people. Now, technology. This has changed over the years. What I would consider, if you're different when it comes to technology, are you digitally enabled? So are you an organization? I generally, when we think of the word organization, we think it's big, but organization can be like 2 people. You can still organize Asian. So would you say that you're an organization that uses technology to the benefit of your customers, for example, or to make the efficiency that a lot of you said you wanted earlier on today? I would have to say in 2020, we became a much better company to make decisions using more data. But in 2021, I think, was the year that in our business, we really upped our technology game. Probably more so than we did in the previous 10, because we started looking at things totally differently. And also we looked at, the key word also for us at the time is integrations. Our systems all talk to each other. We were linking QuickBooks up with our project management system. We were linking our project management system up with our database tool. We were linking our social media back into our data analytics collection service, all that sort of thing. We became much more digitally transformed. And the reason, I think, one of the key triggers of that was exactly this time last year, I emceed a conference for GMIT on digital transformation. And I was just immersed. As whenever I'm emceeing anything, I really do immerse myself in the topic. And as I did that, as I was listening to really great people talk about this, I saw the gaps that we never even saw. So as a result, then I think 2021 was definitely the year that was a pivotal turning point for us in terms of technology. And now we would be a much more digitally enabled business. That, of course, and the pandemic actually accelerated that too. Now, proprietary, I'm going to talk to you about that in one moment. I just want to finish off there on international. If you're doing business internationally, you might be surprised to hear this, but actually in the South, 4% of companies export. That's all. Now, our company exports and Microsoft exports. We count as one company. So I'm not talking about the amount of exports that Ireland has. I'm talking about the percentage of firms that export. If you do business abroad, and of course, you know, that means doing business in the South, then you're a minority. You're a genuine minority. You're a serious minority of companies that have been able to do that. So if that is something that you do, that is also something that makes you very different. Now, I'm going to talk about proprietary here for a moment, because I'm just going to tell you how we developed one business, and it is our real growth focus for the year ahead. Over the past few years, let's go pre-pandemic for a moment. So from 2016 until the end of 2019, right? So let me just distinguish the two, as I say, pre and during the pandemic. I saw in our training business, I saw a big gap in the market. I saw this big gap of where I said, generally when we run through an educational process, we bring in an expert in something, right? So we're going to bring in, so let's say in our case, right, the Bank of Valletta in Malta would have brought us over to upskill their staff in ETFs. ETFs, exchange traded funds, fastest growing financial product in the time. Now, they would have brought us in, let's say I would have delivered training to their various different groups across the bank, and then that was that. So we assume that the person at the top of the room is 100% of the information in their heads, and then they need to pour that information into the heads of those people sitting in front of them. But what I felt there was a complete gap in is there was no structured way to facilitate the learning between the people in the room. In other words, certain people have different experiences all the time. And as people are learning from each other, that can really intensify what happens. Similarly, let's say at networking events, is that if I may be the most extroverted person in the room, and then I can go around and I can meet everybody, and I'm confident in that place, and it's all great. Or I might also be somebody that knows a lot of people in the room, and you know what, I'm naturally drawn to catching up with them. And the place that I met Claire first was at an IIBN networking event in Dublin. And now I could have met her in any of the places that IIBN operate. IIBN is Irish International Business Network. But like, I've often walked into a networking event where I've been really scared, like genuinely, like, what if I don't know anyone? Who am I going to talk to? How am I going to get started? When you walk in first, you don't know where to look, you don't know where to walk. God. So the thing is that I saw another gap there, is what I saw an absence of in in-person and online networking events, is how do we match people together based on what would be optimal for them? What are they looking for and what do they want? And I don't just mean very, very, very manual matches, because we see a lot of B2B meetings like that. And anyone who organizes those generally tends to be ashen-faced by the morning of it, because there's so many chopping and changing. So I saw this gap. And as a result of this gap, we started working on an algorithm to connect people based on what they wanted to know and based on what they knew and what they wanted to learn. Now, let's jump into the pandemic now for a moment. Then I saw a new problem that I saw a lot of people accepting as you can't do anything about it, whereas I didn't see it that way. And that is that I saw an awful lot of Zoom fatigue and an awful lot of online learning being very passive. In other words, you sit back and listen to me because I'm very interesting, and in no way engage with me apart from possibly sending in a question at the end. Whereas I didn't see it like that. I said, but imagine if we could match people up in the room according to what they know and what they want to learn. And then we can facilitate that in a very, very structured way, but also help people to understand how to relate to each other, actually teach them how to share insights with each other. And that, proprietary wise, is the purpose of our innovation partnership. So that is how Active Peers AI came to be, is that I saw a couple of gaps in the market. Now, I'm taking probably far too much credit here by saying I saw. I did come up with that idea, all right, based on something that happened back in 2016. And along the way, there's been so many users and so many people have fed into that. So it's no longer I came up with and I saw. It is now a much greater we, both people in the business and outside the business. But the point I'm making is that that was what my unique, and I'm saying unique because we are all unique. That's what my unique perspective was that led us down this path. And since then, it's taken on all sorts of arms and legs. And I'll tell you about that as well. Some of those tools that you can use that we have used to help us really hone down that idea. So that is what I would say around strategy, is what makes you different? What do you do that's different, but also what do you choose not to do? What we're absolutely not, for example, is we're absolutely not in the training business. We're absolutely not people who deliver training on technical skills in running a restaurant. What we're absolutely not in Active Peers AI is we're absolutely not people who are totally focused on we're so attuned now to what we are, it's actually hard to tell you what we're not. But I'm actually, I can't even take an example off the top of our head, because we've done so much work in refining who we are and distinguishing who we are in the marketplace that it's actually hard to think of it otherwise. But what I would say is that if you want to think more about this afterwards, there's 6 questions to ask yourself to help you to understand maybe how you might be different. Okay, so that here is what I just wanted to tell you is the added bonus here at the end. So this is number one of 7. Now the others are much faster, by the way, but there's much fewer in here, but all the same, just wanted to mention that is the way in which I would start off today. Is the first S of the 7 S's is strategy, and strategy is what makes you different. Okay, now let's move on to the second S, which is structure. Right, efficiency, productivity, that was 2 words that came up quite a bit as we went along there this morning in the Mentimeter. Now let me talk about structure. This is one of the tools that we incorporated last year. It's called ClickUp. And ClickUp is what they say is one place for all of your work. Save one day every week guaranteed. Now, can I say we saved one day a week? Should we probably have across the board? If I save one day a week, I've filled it right back up again with lots of other things for other progression. But ClickUp has forced us as a business. We started on ClickUp last January, so we're coming into our first anniversary of using it. And what it does is it really pushes you to have the discipline to work through who has responsibility for what the process of following things are. So if it starts, let's say there's various different statuses where something is currently in progress, then it moves on to being in review, then it moves on to various other different things. You can also build into it and automate workflows within it and various different things right along the way. ClickUp, I have to say, has been a key way that we have become more efficient. There's no doubt about that. But I think the greater benefit is that it gave us much clearer sense of accountability of who does what and when, by when. And the other thing is you can build in so many other elements into it as well. Like, let's say, right, clear case in point. Let's say Claire and I are sharing our own ClickUp. And I say to Claire, I can prepare the content for today, but what I can't do, Claire, is that I can't make this task complete until you give me the Zoom login details. So I can actually set up a dependency on Claire, which says, Claire, I am waiting for you before I can mark this task complete. So what ClickUp does is that it truly, truly, truly establishes that discipline and the automated workflows as well that happen too. So for example, one of the automated workflows that we have is that when we have a new customer that sends in an inquiry. Here's what I mean now by integrating everything is the form. I'm just going to show you. So the form that we have on the website, I'm just going to show you here, for example, on the Positive Economist, right? So here's the Positive Economist website. And here, I'm just going to go over here to contact us. Okay, so I'm just going to go down here to contact us. So down here, okay, when you go down here to contact us, over here on the right-hand side, this inquiry form is actually an inquiry form that we built in ClickUp. So any inquiry that comes in there, first of all, it goes straight into our project management system. Secondly, it is automatically assigned to the person who is our first touch point with any customer. And then it also then automatically moves into our process. And then there's an automatic timing. And there's, if you want, there's an email generated as well to make sure that we see it, etc., etc. This is what I mean by we've really integrated everything. But believe me, I do want to point out one thing to you, is that unless you are willing to think, unless you are really willing to think through your processes and to put automations, well, you don't have to put automations in place, but you do need to think through what happens, what's the process of things, who is accountable for what. And then I can run all sorts of reports as well through it. So I can see any task that is outstanding, let's say on any staff member, or I can see, is there any specific task with a certain status? I can think through all of that. And they have brilliant customer service, but you know what they also have? If you were to never use ClickUp, it would be suboptimal, I suppose, but if you were to never use ClickUp, they also have their ClickUp webinars are actually really good. Here we are, they're actually really good free training on how to build efficiency into your business. So I watched this one, for example, how to work with clients in ClickUp version 2. That was very, very good now in just how you can build an interface to dramatically reduce the amount of interactions that you have with clients so that you don't have a whole load of emails going forwards and backwards, that you can just deal with things one at a time. This one here is all around building different type of automations. ClickUp forms, that was one as well that I watched, and that's how we end up building all of our forms right into our websites. A lot of these wouldn't really apply to me, like we're not a graphic design company. Let me see what else now I have done. ClickUp for personal productivity, that might be one of interest to you based on what you said there earlier on as well. And ClickUp for freelancers, if any of you are in that area. We also looked at the customer service one as well. That's very, very good. Customer service is different to sales now, by the way. There were two different ones. Anyways, you can see there's loads of them in there. And here's the best bit: ClickUp is free up to a certain area, and then you have to pay for it. But you could, like, on one team that we have on one specific project that we work on for one specific client, we set up a new ClickUp. We have never paid for it. For our own business, we absolutely pay for it. And we didn't just get the pro plan, we got the next level up as well, because it's really, really, really good. So that's what I would say. Sorry, can I also mention, because somebody heard me ask about ClickUp before, or some tool that I was talking about, because I'll talk about a number of them. But somebody asked me, am I an affiliate for any of these tools? I'm absolutely not at all, nowhere near it. And it's not that I wouldn't want to be, it's that I'm not talking about any of these because I'm an affiliate. I'm talking about these because I'm a user. And I've also seen not just what they tell me is a benefit, which is automating flows and efficiency and productivity, is what I found the real benefit of this is thinking through our processes to refine them, then automate them, and then constantly have the ability to tweak and test and improve them as the company changes and grows. That's what I would say. So no, nothing I'm telling you about at all. I'm an affiliate for anything. If I was, I'd be giving you a link to click on, and I'm not. So no, I am giving you a link to click on, which is clickup.com. All right, but that's not like clickup.com/Susan something something something. Okay, so that is what I would say. And I also have added, sorry, I didn't even give you the link. Well, it's clickup.com anyway. But the other thing here is that I've added in this, which is 13 lessons from 10 years of selling. Is some of you there mentioned that you said you wanted to expand your sales. And one of the ways that you can expand your sales for sure is by simply enabling your sales process to be better, is to make it more cohesive, is to understand to a greater degree what you are actually selling. And more importantly than anything else is to understand the value that you're actually offering. Like I remember talking to, they were a subscription service, an information subscription service a while ago. I'm sorry, what a while ago, maybe about, would have been about 12 years ago, I'd say at this stage. And they were saying, oh, we've all this value, and you know, we've all these things. They were showing me all these things on the website, and they said we charge, I'm going to say £199 a year. And I said, but if all I ever use is one part of that, I'm paying £199 for that tab only. And they said, oh no, but there's loads more. And I said, yeah, but there's loads more to you. But unless you actually educate your customer about how they can get more value out of what you do, well, then I said they're paying that amount of money for that small piece of it because they're not necessarily motivated to look any further. So that's my point for structure, is ClickUp. It has been very, very helpful for us. Now, other people use things like Asana, Monday.com, all those types of tools. And I remember somebody putting out a tweet, what's your favorite project management software, you know? And somebody responded very, very accurately by saying any of them, as long as you use them consistently, and they're right. So could we have used any of the others? We probably could. This has been the one that has been particularly good for us, but before that, we would have used Trello, and Trello is very good. Trello was really, really good for us for a very long time. Having a Trello board is now embedded into this tool, so we can have different views and various different things. But the key thing is using it consistently and enjoy the process of making your business more efficient, rather than say, oh, geez, would you listen to her? Oh my God, I'm going to have to think through every process in the company. I didn't think about every process in the company. I thought about one at a time. I brought one of our staff members on. Now, we don't have a very big team, but I brought one of them on at a time. I onboarded them one at a time. Then I asked them to think about their own processes and to see who's involved, who do they rely on. That's what structure really is. Okay. Now, let's move on then to the next S. And of course, I'm seeing questions coming in here. I won't answer them yet, but okay. Now, actually, I will just point out one comment here, but anything that comes in, I probably won't stop as we go, but I just in case there's anything really pertinent to this. So one person, I don't know if I can say her name, so she says, for startup, Susan, is there a free version of ClickUp? Always a balance of cost versus time savings, I suppose, if they say a day a week. Yes, and a very good free version as well. Yes, there is. Everything I'm going to show you has a free version. Everything that I show you has a free version, and we always start in the free version to see if it's worthwhile. Okay, now moving on to the next one, systems. What I would now like to do is show you, this is something we only started using since the beginning of the year, but to great effect. Okay, and the system, one specific system that I'm going to direct you to, is where I think an awful lot of us fall down, is an awful lot of us are trying to solve the problems of our own companies in here in our own heads, whereas actually what we need to do is we need to talk to our users. And why don't we do that? Well, there's a couple of reasons we don't talk to our users in a very market research systemized way. Number one, we don't know how. We don't know how. How exactly do I do it? Like, do I say, okay, happy with me at the end of the service, or Do I send a survey afterwards, or like, do I take you out for lunch and see what the crack is? And this is something we started to really change in 2020 when we became a much more data-driven business. But I came across a tool at the beginning of the year. I think this was the 4th of January. You'll know why I know the dates of these things in the next slide, but I think it was the 4th of January. And since then, how long ago was that? That was about 3 weeks. Since then, I have become a big advocate of this type of technology. So I'm going to bring you over now to look at another tool. Okay, there's two versions, two different businesses that I've seen. I should tell you the reason that we picked one over the other. But what this is a very, very systemized way of collecting market research feedback. Okay, very systemized. So what I just wanted, first of all, like I said, there's a number of reasons people don't ask customers for their feedback. They don't know how, they're afraid of what they might see, or they don't have a system for it. So let me show you what we use, right? So this is called Hello Next. Right now, I'm going to start off here I'm going to show you how to follow the path of how we do this, right? So if you go to activepeers.ai, and then I go in here to About Us, then we click feedback, right? So you can see that it's actually built into our website. Now, what we do here is at the end of our Active Peers AI process, in certain scenarios, now not all of them, certain scenarios, what we do is we ask people to go across here onto our feedback site and then to actually share their critical analysis of how things went. Okay, so I'm just going to bring you here. So, I just want to show you some examples of things we've seen, and then I'll show you how we collect it. So, for example, these are all the reflections people had. Really enjoyed this task. Found it much easier to talk to someone on a one-to-one in a breakout room rather than the small groups we were in yesterday. This is probably because we had to, etc., etc. We have a peer learning prompter that actually helps people to share their knowledge with each other. They said, I feel there should be more questions in that. Enjoyed the breakout rooms, enjoyed learning from others, change a few of the questions to make it easier to help them. Overall, the task was helpful, but such and such amount of time was too long. Now, you might say, Susan, are you actually publishing all the people feel is wrong? This is the very same question that was on the minds of all the airlines and all the banks and everything else when they were offering Twitter support, is that, are you not publicizing your problems? Right? And I get it. I get that you might be worried about that. So let me tell you the real story. First of all, I'm going to go back up here. So after you go through our process, right, after you go through the full Active Peers AI process and you have some feedback, you press new post, and in here, and I'm going to say that there was too few questions in the peer learning prompter. Now we've changed that since, but anyway, I'm going to say questions in peer learning, right? Now what happens is you can see who else has said that. And this is the beauty of it, is you can say, oh, hold on, actually, here's one already. And I can actually upvote this then. So what this does is it allows you to see what features or changes that your users want. This isn't just for software. This could be for a cafe. This could be for a hairdresser. This could be for anywhere, any type of business at all where you want interface with customers. And more so, a lot of customers, as opposed to like maybe if you're very, very B2B. So I can actually upvote this instead. But then also, as you can see here, then down here, you can see that I can actually go back and interact with them. So I said, well, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts on this. On the next occasion, we're going to give the group some ideas on how to lengthen the conversation. In fact, we're going to put together a short blog post inspired by your and other comments. So what we're actually doing is we're not just listening to what people say. We're actually going back to them and saying, thank you for that. I appreciate your point. Here's what we're going to do as a result. And then what we can do is, if you want to see what we're planning, then you can also then see what's planned, what's in progress, and of course, what's also completed. And you can see this then according to the various different elements that are actually here in our roadmap. Maybe it is the AI matching algorithm, maybe it's the facilitation, maybe it's the survey functionality, etc. And then finally, you can also then make a big announcement then to everyone to say, we're now making such and such thing available. This is our system for collecting feedback. And as you can see here, we have had, look at all those comments that we've had over the last, now it'll go on and 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 on. But this is gold dust to us, gold dust for us to hear exactly how people feel. It is absolute gold dust for us to hear from them. And also you can choose, and here's the distinguishing factor between two different businesses that I'm about to tell you about. But we can also communicate back to them to say, it's not just that we're doing this for the crack. We genuinely care what you think. And if there's certain things, going back to strategy, that we say, Thank you for saying that our survey functionality should be different. The thing is, we're actually not trying to compete against Google Forms or other like Microsoft Forms. So the functionality we have is that fit for our specific purpose. But if that's not good enough for you, then of course you can always import your data in from any of those places instead, and then that will meet the brief. So you don't always have to say to a user, we're going to make every change based on what you suggest, but actually the ones that matter. But since we've started using that, like we have had over 100 users a week on Active Peers AI since the beginning of the year, and all of that allows us to see what they want and in the priority. Remember, some of you said about prioritization. This is how we actually systemize the prioritization, not for what we think, not for what we think at all, because we might say, well, it's easier to do that, or actually we have a cool way of doing that. No. The customer comes first, and we let them have a voice, and some voices can aggregate and become louder than others. Now, what two tools am I talking about? What we use is HelloNext. Okay, HelloNext. HelloNext, I find, I'll just show you I'll show you the two of them, and I'll show you the key difference in business model for us, so that you can see if either of them are worthwhile for you, right? So this is HelloNext, and the other one I want to show you is Canny.io. Right, Canny.io. This is HelloNext. So the pricing here is $12 a month or $25 a month. You get a 2-week trial in both cases. But the difference here is that if you've one, you can have one feedback board. Now we have more than that. Instead, we have we need more than one. We need more than one because we have various different features that we want to categorize and systemize. And the other thing is we need more than one administrator. It's not just going to be me or somebody else. So instead, we're over here. This is what we have. But the key thing I want to show you is this bit, is we can have unlimited tracked users, because in Active Peers AI, our customer is the learning and development facilitator, the event manager, the network manager, but the users are all of their respective customers. So like I say, we have, let's say we had 100 users in the past week across 3 different events. So we have lots and lots and lots of users. And therefore, if we were to limit it based on users, that wouldn't suit us, but it could suit others. So Canny.io have a brilliant tech. It's run by, they've 9 staff. And I mean, how they've done it in 9 staff, fair play to them. The woman that started this, it's a woman who started, she used to be a product development manager in Facebook, and she has all the signs of it. We took a 2-week trial of this as well. But the difference here is that now the technology is probably better, but they charge an extra $20 a month for every additional 100 tracked users, and ours is going to mushroom. So that's why the business model of that didn't suit us, the tech would have. So that's the way in which we looked at both of those. And I have to say, in our case, so I know I did say that every tool I would tell you about was free, and actually that one isn't. But I find for an investment in our case it's going to be about $200 a year to have unlimited user feedback in a highly systemized way that can allow us to communicate very well back with them. And of course, it talks to ClickUp. There's integrations that we can build in there in between the two. Canny.io is the same. That is really, really valuable to us. And it helps us prioritize where to put our resources. So I have to say, very, very useful for us. So that's what I would say as regards systems. Now, my next one here, we are on to number 4. Number 4 is style. And I'm going to go back here to sharing my screen. Like I say, everything that I am showing you is going to be on the slides afterwards that I'm going to be sharing with Claire. So I have my prop here for this. My cup of coffee is my New Year's resolution for 2021 was I always try out my New Year's resolutions in the middle of December to see if they fit me. I tried a few last December as well. Not too many did, but one did. But anyway, in the middle of December 2020, for some reason, I can't remember why, really. Maybe it was because we had to eat breakfast outside or eat outside all the time. But anyway, I made a New Year's resolution that I would go out for breakfast every working morning. Now, not at the weekend, that's different. But every working day, I would spend an hour thinking over my breakfast that I would go out for, right? And I can honestly tell you, it has been one of the most impactful things that I've ever done, because number one is that it gives me time to think. So I have a thinking agenda. I have a thinking agenda every day. It doesn't always work out, by the way. I don't always end up thinking about what I set out to think about. But every day I give myself the space to think. every single day. And I have a particular process for it. Number one is wherever I go, if I've been there before and I like something, I'll just order it again, right? I don't put any creative energy into choosing what I want to the menu or anything else like that, right? The creative energy goes into my thinking. Number two is I write in a serviette. Now, I said I've loads of props for you today. Here are, I hope you can see them. Here's my serviettes that I still have to act upon, right? I write in serviette. I always write in serviettes, always, because first of all, people throw them out when there's so much insight that can land on these things. And I'll tell you why. Is because when I touch a serviette, that is a trigger from my body to say, right, Susan, it's thinking time. That's why I never write in a serviette any other time of my life. It's a trigger for me to say to my body, okay, it's time to think now. And you can set up loads of those triggers in your own body. I learned all about that in Deep Work by Cal Newport. And I can think very fast now. Like I can think, if I need to think hard about something, I can actually do it pretty quickly because it's muscle memory. I know how to do it. And the other thing is that I create the space to do it. Now, creating the space to do it is the hardest bit, because sometimes it would be just easier if I could just respond to a text or send an email or because it's actually kind of hard going, having to think all the time, like not all the time, every day about something that is often a problem, obviously, that you haven't solved yet. You know, sometimes you say, oh God, I just love to respond to a text there and that'll be that. But I can't, like, I have to get in and get at it. So it's creating the space to do that as well. And I've added on another element this year, and that is I now hold myself accountable by telling everybody what I'm thinking about. And I didn't quite expect that bit to happen. Only I said I'd start doing it this year because I tell everyone about it. And it's funny, sometimes, you know, I'll be tweeting about it or something like that. Someone say, oh, you really do it? I'm saying, of course I do it. I don't talk about anything I don't do. But so I've started doing that now, and I continue it as well. So on my LinkedIn, for example, to give you a case in point, on my LinkedIn, I'll head on over here. And if I go down here to my posts, here we are. See, yeah, there we are. Yeah, this is Barbara's comment on. So this is week one, all of the various different days, and I tell you what I was doing and the results. By the way, I don't just leave them there on the serviettes. Some of those now might have 3/4 of what I thought about done. Not all of them. I can't throw out the serviette till I'm done. And then week two, I do the same. And I'll tell you what I'm doing, and then that's a picture that, and on Instagram I actually tag the places that I go. A lot of them aren't on LinkedIn, so I don't. But that's an even harder. That's me kind of stepping up the game again, because now I have to hold myself accountable to myself and to everyone else to make sure that I do it. And it is the most enjoyable. Oh my God, it is the most enjoyable thing. Like I go to bed looking forward to getting up in the morning so I can go out for my breakfast. And so this morning was overnight oats. And that's what I had. And also what I was really thinking hard about is how we can take Active Peers AI and build it natively into Zoom, because at the moment we haven't been able to do that. And I think I might have a solution for that I got this morning. And if this works, it's going to be amazing, in my own opinion. So that is what I would say about style, is that is my style. Now, for some people, I'll tell you what I typically get when I tell people this, right? They say, I'd love to do it, but I wouldn't have the time. And I was the same. I didn't have the time either, but I then just said, right, I take calls after 10 o'clock. So I think between 9 and 10, I take calls after 10 o'clock. If I had a meeting in the morning between 9 and 10, I wouldn't book another one at the same time, would I? Well, I wouldn't, no. So this is my meeting with myself, basically. So, and that's just what I do. That's all. It's just there. And some people say, well, I couldn't do it in the morning. Okay, well then do it whatever time you want. I'm just telling you what time I do it. But creating the space to think every single day has been transformational. And I know that the nature of this session is all around how to transform your business. That this for me has genuinely been transformational. Right, the bonus podcast I have for you here is how to manage your energy. I see a lot of you talking about managing your time, and that's very worthy, and I have thought a lot about how to optimize my time over the years. But what I will also say is, when you can manage your energy according to your time, like I'm sure lots of you would love to be working on your business from like 10 to 11 o'clock on a Friday night, as distinct to maybe 10 to 11 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. But it's the same time. but it's actually the energy that you have at the time is what makes the difference. So that podcast is all around that. So I think in the morning and then I spend the day implementing it in around everything else that's going on as well. Right. Number 5, staff. Right. Here's my thoughts on this. Number 1 is that I think we often restrict ourselves, and I've given up on this years ago. We've often restrict ourselves to thinking that our staff are the people who work in our businesses. Because it's much, much, much broader than that. There are so many more people out there that are willing to help you instead. For example, I was going to stop and start my video there now because it's gone a little bit fuzzy. For example, Claire has gone to the trouble today of bringing together this event, organizing, setting it up on Zoom, reaching out to me and us having a chat about what we were going to talk about. And then also bringing all of you together as well, so that then there are more questions that we have, well, then the more insights we can share with each other. So she has been part of your team this morning. And also I know she's involved, for example, in Awaken Hub. Awaken Hub has been a phenomenal network for so many people, where through their Slack group, they have enabled people to answer questions for each other, to give them direction, to give them inspiration. So I would actually really and truly expand your mind far beyond, far, far, far beyond your own business. And if you don't have staff, that's not to say you don't have people who can work for you at the same time. Okay, you may not necessarily pay people directly, but you certainly can reward them in kind, for example, by being a participative participant in a network, for example. And the other one is mentoring. Now, I have had coaches and mentors over the years, many, many, many times. And I just distinguish the difference between the two. So a mentor is somebody that I would go to for their direction. So generally when we think of mentoring, we think of people who are more senior than us, further along our path, and we want to kind of, as the Chinese say, if you want to know the road ahead, ask those coming back. So that's generally a mentor, is somebody who can help kind of pull you along, right? Now, I'm also, because of the nature of the work that we do with our Savvy Teens, so we run work experiences for companies focusing on careers, communication, competence, specifically tailored for 16-year-olds. With our 16-year-olds, then on the other hand, like I could show you our dashboards of the insights they share with us, and that's reverse mentoring. So reverse mentoring is looking at people who are coming behind you, whether that is in seniority or time or whatever, and just reflecting back on what they are telling you and implementing it accordingly. Coaching is different now. Coaching is where you're actually asking somebody to get the answers that you have out of your own heart and soul and mind. That's what a coach is. And I am very grateful to have married a man who is brilliant. Of course, I wouldn't have married him otherwise, but he is also a guy that knows me extremely well, of course, but also he's very good at that with me. And on New Year's Eve, we drove up from Cork. I'm from Cork, in case you didn't know, but I drove up, with 2 of us drove up from Cork anyway, and I probably was hiding something from myself about one direction of the business for a long time. I was afraid there was this one specific thing that I felt I was holding back from, and I knew it for a while, but I couldn't put my finger on it. And during the chat that we had New Year's Eve coming up, I eventually got the words out. And it's not that I was holding them back from him, I was holding them back for myself. And I said, I'm worried that if we put energy into this one specific thing, it will take away from everything else, and I don't want to take that risk. And he turned around to me, I was driving, he was in the passenger seat, and he just said to me, but Suze, do you not see that by putting energy into this one thing, it feeds everything else, not drains it? And I said, does it? And then he kind of gave me 3, 4, 5 examples. And then when he gave me 3, 4, 5 examples, try 15 more on top of it. And that one conversation has just changed my approach to that one specific thing. And it's unleashed everything we needed in order to get this going. So sometimes you need, that's what I'm saying about, don't feel so restricted about yourself. You don't have to come up with your USP, your unique selling point. Let other people just listen to how other people describe you. You don't have to come up with every decision about the growth of your business or your company. Let your users direct you. You don't always have to have the answers. Let other people, whether it's mentors or coaches, bring them out of you or highlight or illuminate the way forward. Like, I'm actually very dependent on lots of other people, and I'm independently so. I independently make the choice to be dependent. And as a result of that, I certainly don't feel I'm an island at all. I'm extremely lucky that I'm lucky and I'm hungry. Yeah, I'm lucky and I'm hungry for it, about getting insights from everywhere and everyone around me. And some ways I've systemized ways of doing it, like you saw there with Hello Next. And sometimes I just have chats with my husband. So look, and he's not a trained coach or anything. He should be. He's married to me now a good bit. But my point is that this is out there. These mentors and coaches are out there, and they can be informal routes. You can apply for certain mentoring through various different organizations, and there's also informal routes as well, when you know what you actually want out of them. The second thing at a more strategic business level is Enterprise Europe Network. Now, Enterprise Europe Network has been so pivotal for us in our international journey, and Invest NI is right at the heart of it. So Enterprise Europe Network is like, it's the whole enterprise architecture of of all of Europe and beyond, by actually linking together the like of Intertrade Ireland, Invest NI, and all the various different enterprise agencies with all of the other ones in the other parts of the world. So, for example, to give you a very clear case in point, any trade missions that are organised typically tend to be where Enterprise Europe Network can actually join two of these agencies together. So the one that triggered the very beginning of Active Peers AI, I told you something happened in 2016 that led me to seeing that gap at that time. And that was, I went on a trade mission with the London Chamber of Commerce to Dubai. And it was to Dubai, Abu Dhabi and Sharjah. And it was in September 2016. And the reason I could go with the London Chamber of Commerce is because I'm a member of, at the time I was a member of Dublin Chamber. Now all the Leos and everyone's involved in it. But anyway, at the time, so as a result of being a member of Dublin Chamber, I could just go with the London Chamber, because we also had at the time with staff member based in the UK, we were doing business in the UK, etc., etc. Anyway, off I went. And that's where I got my idea. But London Chamber of Commerce basically linked up with the Chamber of Commerce in Dubai and the various different agencies in Sharjah and in Abu Dhabi, and they put together a program of events. So like, I have so many things that I could tell you about Enterprise Europe Network, but I know Invest NI obviously are a big part of this webinar today, and they'll be able to tell you a lot more about it. And I have at least 5 stories of where they've been really pivotal. But that trade mission, that's where I got the idea. It's kind of a bit too long a story now, but that's where I got the idea. And one of the key reasons I got the idea there, as distinct to anywhere else, is I found in Dubai, everything I knew to be true was challenged. The first day of the business week was Sunday. You couldn't cross the road. You had to, because it's motorways, you had to get a taxi. People wore their social class, wore it on their bodies. And of course, social class and religion were all wound up together. Women, as they said to us, women aren't equal, they're different. That's not to say that they're less. And it was just a place to challenge everything that I knew to be true. And that's a very healthy place to be thinking. So that's what I would say there. And my bonus this time is Ambition to Employ. Now, Ambition to Employ is a resource that was put together it was a European project that was put together by a company, and it's this specific one. So I worked with them on their launch event towards the very end. So I really crawled through what they did and why they did it. And Ambition to Employ is a course that you can self-study, and it's totally tailored to people taking on their first staff member. And it's all the concerns and worries and everything that you might have taking on your first staff member. So that, for anybody who is at that stage where you're either making the leap into taking on staff or you're concerned about it, that can be a very handy one. So that's what I would say on staff is don't think that your staff have to be on your payroll. I suppose that's my point. And they can be around you everywhere through formal mechanisms and informal mechanisms. And separately, Enterprise Europe Network, I call it my secret weapon of international business strategy and implementation as well. I could talk to you for a lot longer about it, but as I say, we're already at the home of it in Invest NI. Right, number 6, skills. The 6th S is skills. And skills, what I would say here, 3 key things I wanted to say to you. Number 1 is embrace your weaknesses. I never understand why people try to constantly fill their weaknesses with themselves. Oh my God, I don't at all. I'm delighted that I'm weak at loads of things. And I tell you why. It's because I give the ability to other people to shine. That's why. It's brilliant. So, for example, I do my thinking in the morning, as you know. I love strategy and I love going out there creating new things. I'm really into our innovation partnership. I love working with our teenagers. I'm in my happy place talking to you here this morning. There's lots of things I love to do. And we have one staff member, she's my PA, her name is Caroline, and Caroline has been with me 2021, 8 years in April, and she is just brilliant at detail. She's been brilliant now in ClickUp in particular. She's brought great illumination to how we process things, because she thinks differently than me. I would think macro, she thinks micro, and when we meet in the middle. But to give Caroline her job, right, and for her to do the things that I don't, first of all, she loves it, thanks be to God. But secondly, is that it's been such a joy to watch her grow and develop and thrive and take all that stuff off me. And now on top of that, there's stuff she now knows how to do that I haven't a clue about, which is the way it should be. And also as well, because we're so, immersed in peer learning, we always make sure that two people can do everything in the company. Because if anything ever happens to any one of us, even though we're a small company, there's always somebody who at least knows what to do and pick it up and run with it. So that's what I would say about your gaps, is that, working on your gaps, the things that you're not great at, that can really be great yin and yang for somebody else, if somebody else is better at this. And when Caroline started off first, like this back in 2013, I said to her, like, this could be 5 hours a week. Now, anyway, that day is a while gone at this stage, but we started off small. Like, I couldn't afford to take somebody on full time back then, and at all. So that's what we did, is you can make things work according to what works for you. Like, this is a barrier I had at the time, because I remember thinking, God, we don't have enough money to take on somebody full time, but we hadn't the work either at the time. So instead we built it, and Caroline has grown, and her contract has expanded, ballooned, in fact, since, and all that happened along the way. But embrace your gaps, be liberated by them, be liberated by the fact that you're weak at certain things, or not strong, or whatever word you want to put in it. I'm delighted with myself anyway, the fact that I am, because if you're good at everything, it's too hard then to be good at anything. However, double down on your strengths. Double down on them, double down on your strengths. And that is what I have done a lot over the years, is I've realized what I am good at. And it's funny, actually, we took on a new staff member last June. Her name is Anna. And it's interesting watching Anna, because Anna is pretty early in her career. And anyway, when we were using Trello all along, and she saw, we were also using Trello for, okay, to give you the very specific example, in Savvy Teens, when we're running our work experience programs, obviously there's loads of links, because they have loads and loads of things to do, and they're all getting just disappeared in the chat. So we created Trello board instead, and we said that was going to be one place where they could see day by day what they were doing. And then I said to Anna, I think I said this last October, I was introduced to Airtable last October when I was working on the Beyond conference that was on at the Titanic. I was emceeing that. It was a UK-wide conference, and they used Airtable because they said they really needed something with much more power. And I was intrigued at what Airtable does. Another brilliant tool, free version of it. We have got the pro version because we use it to the nth degree, but really, really great database management tool. So anyway, I remember Anna saying to me afterwards, she says, like, why? Like, Trello's fine. Why? Trello is grand. She, look, it doesn't do the job. And I said, grand is never good enough for me. I said, just because things are working doesn't mean that you can't think bigger. I said, challenging the status quo is important. So anyway, it was only last week Anna said to me, I'm so glad we're on Airtable. Look how we could just do. And she mentioned a couple of use cases that have just been made a lot easier as a result. And that's what I'm strong at. I'm strong at seeing the world, I suppose, with my unique perspective, gathering feedback along the way, using the tools and only one 3 weeks ago, and then saying, okay, this could be better. We could tech enable this better. We could have a better user experience. This could look better. This could feel better. This could flow better. That's what I'm strong at. I'm strong at that. I'm a thinker. I'm a thinker. So imagine then if I was trying to do Caroline's job as well. Like, in all fairness, I couldn't possibly. Whereas Caroline is a thinker when it comes to the detail and process and everything else, and she will methodically go through everything, and I don't. So that's the thing, is build on your strengths. A lot of people say you learn nothing from success. I disagree with that. I think you learn an awful lot from success. When you are successful with something, and you look at every different element of why you're successful and see how you could be more successful, of course there's great teaching in that. Granted, failure is a great teacher too. It's not just a very nice one, is it? But I think there's a lot you can learn, an awful lot that you can learn from success along the way. Right. The last point that I would say is automate. And I've already referred to this as well, is is learning how to automate leans on the discipline that I mentioned from structure, like for example, from ClickUp. Okay, and the tool, one other tool I want to show you here that automates is Avoma. So Avoma is a very organized meeting assistant, right? That's what Avoma is. So Avoma is what I use now in my Zoom calls with meetings with people, because it transcribes the conversation and picks out certain areas. So I'm just going to show you here what Avoma does. Avoma is back here, right? So this is a meeting that I had with Anna the other day, and right, here's me looking very concentrated at the time. And this is our office here, and it's a lovely sunny day. Anyway, so you can see that what happens here is that it transcribes everything. And also, if I click on this particular area, it'll jump to that in the video. But also what it does is it'll see who's doing most of the talking. Does it surprise you that most of it's me? But it'll actually tell you who is doing most of the talking. So it's really useful for sales. Then it'll also automatically generate notes for you, including the positive points, the pain points, the action items, and it'll also say when your follow-up meeting is. But this is the bit I love, is that it'll also pick out all the questions that were asked. Now that's between Anna and I, because I didn't want to show you any private conversations I was having with a customer, but it picks out all the questions, and that is also great user feedback, and it's an automated tool as well. So that is Avoma. And my last one, and then Claire, we're going to go back to you and we'll start taking questions at that point, is shared values. I told you at the very beginning that one of our values is we practice what we preach. I hope you've seen that. I really do, because we genuinely do. But I think it's so important to figure out why you're doing this at all, right? It really is. And one thing that I often do, and that I encourage other people to do, is write a letter to yourself from the future. So 3 years' time, dear Susan, I am now whatever my dream might be. And I have to use the word feel at least 3 times. I feel excited, alive, dynamic, or overwhelmed, or stressed, or whatever. And then, because you'll answer a question different. If I say, how did you feel about today? You might say, hopefully you'd say motivated, inspired, like you said you wanted to feel on Mentimeter earlier. Or you might say, what did you think? Well, I think I'll start using ClickUp, or I think what I'll do now is I will start using Hello Next so I can gather user feedback. 2 different answers, totally, right? But if you write a letter to yourself in the future, you'll see what it's like to walk a mile down the road. And then you'll also see as well whether you really want it, or whether you're doing it because other people feel you should, or there's metrics that you feel you should meet, or of course I need to grow my sales every year, or whatever. But the question to ask yourself at the end of that letter is, was it worth it? Was it worth it? Because everything comes at a cost. Everything comes at a cost. I don't watch TV during the week. Do I mind? Absolutely not. That's a cost of the gratefully busy life that I'm very happy to have. That's a cost. It's still a cost though. So everything has a cost, and you just need to figure out, is the cost worth it? Because if it is, well, then that can just clear the way. Also, it can bring up the limiting beliefs that you can have as well. Like the one I said to Ardal on that drive up on New Year's Eve, is that when you ask yourself, is it worth it? Like, I was worried it wouldn't be worth it. Like, what if it's not worth it for me to put energy into this and to drain it from other places, when, as he said, what is actually I was doing was giving energy to everything else. And so that changed everything. And the last thing I'm going to say, Claire, before we go back to you, is that I at the end of every day, I could show you here, my diary's here beside me. At the end of every day, I write at the top of the page what I've achieved that day. And this is because our shared values are what we want to do. But I think the red pen exercise for me is what we have done. And do they marry? Do they actually match? That for me also gives me that kind of, the micro steps. The growth paradox is that growth happens very slowly, and then it happens really fast, really big, really quickly. The phrase, it takes 20 years to be an overnight success. So but I can watch the growth that's happening with that red pen exercise, and it can really be very different. So that is the 7S model. So I started with strategy. What can you do to be different? I then went on to structure and the discipline of going through everything that is in ClickUp. Systems then, there I was talking about a systemized way to collect feedback and make decisions about what you're going to do. Style then is all about your thinking time. Staff is looking beyond the people on your payroll, if there's any, and looking towards mentoring and coaching and what's out there, as well as Enterprise Europe Network. Skills is double click or double down on your skills, be liberated by your weakness and allow them to others to shine, and automate what doesn't need to be done at all. And then also shared values, which is write a letter to yourself from the future and then ask yourself if it's worth it. Here are my socials, as they say. So you can tweet me, connect with me on LinkedIn. You can follow me on Instagram, or also you can register for our newsletter. Speaking of Instagram, the one thing that I was doing before, just at the very beginning there, I was telling you about was I did this. If any of you wants to ask me a question after today, what I did is I put up a story here on my Instagram on the handle that I gave you, which is you can submit your question there. No one will see it except me, and if I republish it, the only person who will know who sent it is me, but everyone then will see who has everyone will see the answer. So I find Instagram stories are a great way to, you know, have that kind of connectivity afterwards. And of course, like I say, twofold, it's also just another way to show you how to use that platform if you use it. Okay, right, Claire, I'm finished. Back to you.
Brilliant, Susan. Thank you. I mean, I don't know about anybody else in the audience, but my head's reeling and really want to get into doing the research into some of those tools to, for efficiency and to save time, and also to take some time out and make time for thinking time, for planning, and for 2022. So thank you so much for that. We are inundated with questions as usual. So I'm going to fire on through with them right through to we finish off at 11:30. So first question, we all make mistakes in business. Mm-hmm. What do you think was your biggest mistake, and what did you learn from it?
Right, I think my biggest mistake was not acting like I wanted to be earlier. So that sounds a bit vague now, but I'll answer all these quick, Claire, because I know that there's a lot to get through. I remember, like, we set up the business in 2010. We got our first CRM, customer relationship management system, in 2013, which then systemized things like invoicing and our newsletter and our data analytics and everything else. And I always said I should have done that earlier, because I was kind of waiting to see how things would go for a while. And instead, what I think, if I acted like we were going to succeed from the beginning, then that could have happened earlier. We could have made better use of it. And I suppose if I could summarize it in one line, act like you, not start as you mean to continue, act like you're already got there, and that'll prevent an awful lot of those types of mistakes, rookie ones.
We all have those. So how do you overcome, you know, in implementing new tools and strategies, how do you overcome individuals' reluctance to use other platforms like ClickUp? And when they're, you know, they're feeling overwhelmed, especially when you've got a small team, or you've got a board of directors, you know, or a team who basically don't like change.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I've dealt with this so often. When we move from email to Slack, when we move from Trello to ClickUp, I've experienced that loads of times. Okay, what I would say is that what you need to do is, first of all, understand where they're coming from, but then share the vision about where you're going. But and after that, and that's grand. But then after that, what you need to do is then get straight in to acting. I suppose, again, acting like it's already there is making it difficult to revert back to an old system. So if people, so say for example, somebody misses something because they're not on ClickUp, instead they're back on a previous system, is then let the problem happen, and then point out, well, you know, this is where we are now in the company, so that's where you need to be as well. So simply design the systems to make sure that this is where the most things that are up to date are happening, where ultimately where this is where the action is now. So number one is understand where they're coming from and overcome that. And words will matter, and also sharing the vision about why it'll affect them better. But then secondly, act like this is the way it is now, and discard previous versions of it. If you look at how the big tech companies handle this, they allow people, for example, to have support. BlackBerry, for example, a couple of weeks ago they've completely stopped. So they let people support themselves along for a while, and then the day dot happens when, okay, the previous way we're doing things is now officially gone. That's what I would do. That's what I've done.
And then going back to Click, I mean, there's lots of questions about Click. I think that they'll be inundated this afternoon with people signing up for a free trial. But can you share ClickUp with clients if you're waiting on stuff from them?
Yes, you can, and to great effect. Now, I do want to point out, for example, one of the things that we do is, I'll give you two. One is that we can have a document that's dynamic, so like Google Docs, but it looks a lot better. So we can have a ClickUp doc, and they can have sheets, they can have all sorts of things in it, where you can share it with them and it's dynamic, but they can't edit it, which can actually be really handy. Say, for example, Claire, that I put in the title, I put in the description of everything we were going to do today, and then I sent it to you and you wanted to make changes, you'd have to come back to me. But let's say if I wanted to make changes, I could do it myself. So as a result then, or you might say after we've had a call, will you consider this, Susan, add in a bit of this, take out a bit of that? Then you still have one link and then everything changes on our side. The other thing to expand that much higher is we have a very specific use case again. When we're doing a project management plan, for example, for a work experience, we have a Gantt chart set up in ClickUp, which again, we can share. And then also we can have guests in there, so they can actually be, they can be attributed to tasks, but again, they can't change anything. So it's really helpful. And then you can have client dashboards. So that webinar I showed you of ClickUp for customer service or ClickUp for sales, that's where you'll get a much longer answer to that question, but yes, you can.
Great. And then you also mentioned in ClickUp, it links to a project management system. So do you have a separate project management system? Can it work standalone, or do you need to have?
Yeah. So first of all, yes, it can link to a lot of things, but just in case that's not enough for anybody, what I would also say is if you look at Zapier, Zapier is an integration tool. So Zapier can actually connect different apps together. So I'm just going to go down here to the various different apps that they work. Okay, well, it's in here somewhere where I could show. Well, here's an example how you can actually make two tools talk to each other. So you can make ClickUp, if ClickUp doesn't do it natively, connects to other systems like Google Sheets or QuickBooks or whatever, then Zapier you can actually put in to build a bridge as well.
Okay, and another technical question, what's the difference between Airtable tool and ClickUp that you need?
Great question. Yeah, great question. Okay, so ClickUp is, the focus there is on tasks. Everything has a deadline. The difference with Airtable is it's a database of information. And that information could be text, numbers, ratings. So, but the focus there is on storing the information and segregating it properly. The focus of ClickUp is dates, tasks and dates. One is project management, one is a database. And I remember us thinking, do we really need both? Now, for our business, we do. I wouldn't say that of everyone, but that's the difference between them.
Okay, so moving from tools to strategy, with a question. How do you change the direction of your business if you feel that the current market is declining and margins are decreasing?
Yeah, so I mean, look, we've done that as well. First of all, you need to acknowledge what you've just said is probably the first step anyway, is that if you're feeling that that's happening, now you can either go strategic or tactical on that. Tactically, you could say, right, if margins are decreasing, could I collaborate with somebody else, let's say, that where we can expand the margin by me upselling to my existing customers? Do we need to move something from maybe it being analog to digital? Is there a way in which we can innovate upon the existing business? If the answer to all that is no, if you need to move in a totally different direction, I would say don't do it on your own. I would get some outside insights on this. For example, our own innovation partnership was the very expression of that. And what I would do is, now I'm saying Ulster University because I'm a lecturer there and I know the people to go to, but probably this would work with Queen's as well, is that you could always go to the Business Innovation Centre or the Ulster University Business School. You could reach out to them and just call in ask them, can you meet them to talk about what innovations are happening in your area? Can you license their technology or engage with them in some way? The answer is likely to be yes. And then at least that can give you some direction about how you could move forward. And of course, then there's funding behind that as well. Everything I'm telling you is we've done it ourselves twice with DCU. That's what I would do is if you're looking for another direction. And the third thing is then write that letter to yourself in the future and ask yourself if you really want to.
Okay, and then moving from strategy to automation. Being a director of a micro business means that I'm wearing many different hats at different times. How do you keep up with the latest automation tools and know what ones are the most valuable?
Yeah, trial, I would say trial and error. Like in my thinking time as well, I might do an hour of a ClickUp webinar. I'll do an hour of an Airtable webinar. Like I don't need to keep up with anything. I let other people do that and I'll just decide who I'm keeping up with. And also as well, another thing I would say, and I do this all the time, is if you're going to pay for, even if you don't pay for them, but if you're a user of ClickUp, Airtable, Avoma, is book their demo calls and say QuickBooks, any of the tools I've mentioned. generally they will have a facility for you to work or to have a call with them and say, here's my business, here's what I'm interested in, how can I use your tool better? Going back to that scenario I told you of the £199 subscription to the website and somebody only using one tab, they're going to love hearing from you because they're enabling you to see more value in their product. And usually they're very proud of their features anyway. So that's what I would do. I do that all the time. And I often see what I don't know.
Some people now are thinking, I said, get as many questions in as possible. And they're thinking, oh, The Economist, I'm going to get some finance questions in.
Yeah.
How are any tips from you around cash flow management?
Yes, for a start, keep an eye on it. So just for a very start, so in our QuickBooks, we generate a report of our debtors, and we can see then who owes us what and by when, and keep an eye on that. Now, that's a job I've now transferred to Caroline. So Caroline does all of that. But the point is for a start, I would say keep an eye on it. The second thing I would say is use your cash flow in order to negotiate. What I mean by that is, if you are somebody where you, let's say, Claire, I would like to buy your services and I can't afford them. So I'm going to say, Claire, that I'm going to say that a job that I'm asking you to do is, you tell me is 10,000 and I don't have 10,000, but I've 9.5. Is that what I'd often say is, okay, Claire, I can't do 10, but I'll do 9.5 and I'll pay you on the day of the invoice. You can also do it in that way to negotiate with suppliers. I've often done that to great effect. And then on the other hand, you can also, the other side of that as well is you can also incentivize your own customers by saying there's a 2% discount, for example, and it doesn't have to be major, but there's a 2% discount if you pay us within under 30 days. I know a company I worked in when I was 20 in college did that, and again, to great effect. So keep an eye on it, use your own cash flow as a negotiation tool, and incentivize your customers to keep their side of the bargain.
Okay, and then this is the final question, so it's going to have to be quick. And the rest of the questions that we didn't get to, please do try to use the
Instagram story
that Susan has set up, but we will send any answers to the questions that we haven't got to. How to smoothly transition to becoming VAT registered? What should I look out for?
Okay. Again, don't do it on your own. It must be my clarion call this morning. So, and I certainly didn't, is talk to your accountant, or else reach back out again to InvestNI, and through Enterprise Europe Network, again, they can connect you with this. I'll tell you, two big learnings for us was, number one is that we needed to make sure we were keeping a record of the VAT that we were paying out, because now, of course, we could claim it back when we became VAT registered. But the second thing is know what VAT rates apply to what. So, for example, when we were a much more focused business on training, like delivery of training, that was VAT exempt. Whereas now we're a much more of our products and services are VATable. So that changes things. And also when we are doing business with the US, it is 0% as distinct to exempt. I had to ask all those questions. Sorry, I didn't know how to ask those questions. I had to say to our accountant, here's the state of our business, here's who we're doing business with, and in what countries we're doing business with, and then let them direct you from there. So a smooth transition is asking lots of questions, and of course asking, how can I save money along the way in doing so?
Brilliant. Susan, that brings us to the end of today's webinar. We are bang on time. So on behalf of the Council, Innovate NI and the Transform Your Business teams, I'd sincerely like to thank you for such an insightful, fast-paced and engaging power hour. God, we need a few of those every week. I'm sure, like me, the audience have lots of tips and tricks to get stuck into 2022. And don't forget that the Transform Your Business programme is here to support you to grow your business. So I'd encourage you to avail of the support and offer and apply now. So just that leaves us to say thank you for joining us today, and enjoy the rest of your Tuesday.
Thanks so much, Claire.
Thank you.